who's going to look at no-nonsense kindness. And that is something which I'm going to introduce this speaker for. She actually comes from a family that is steeped in leadership. That is something which I have always thought about her. She's a senior citizen, but by no means retired. She's a personality with many, many distinct achievements. And the most interesting one is that she's an Equality and Inclusiveness Champion. She's also the former chair for the National Commission of Women, a position she held from 2014 to 2017. She's a single parent, a cancer survivor, a proud nationalist. I already hinted at the background that she comes from, both from her maternal and paternal side. If she does refer to it in her talk, it will be interesting. But of course, the topic itself is to do with senior care. And here she is, an animal lover, foodie, an Indian arts lover, collector, a fantastic multi-dimensional woman who we invite into this International Kindness Festival. Please join me in applauding Lalita Kumaramangalam.
I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very grateful for that extremely flattering description of me. I got lucky. I got more opportunities than I expected I would get. Was given the energy and the training to be able to deal with it. And well, I stumbled along the way sometimes, but here I am. When I was talking to Mahima, who's the eldest daughter of very, very good and very dear friends of mine, and I've known her from I think the age of about 2 or 3, she was talking about kindness. So I said that, kindness doesn't always have to be in the form of feel-good kindness. In the form of whether you want to call it charity, whether you want to call it grace, generosity, thoughtfulness, etc. For most of my life, I have stood on my own feet, in the sense I am always grateful to my parents and my family that helped me to understand that I can do things on my own, regardless of my gender. A very rare family in that sense. It would be very unfair to say that I don't come from a very privileged background. I do, and actually, for the most part of it, it's a very so-called leftist liberal background. A family that has a very big so-called name and presence, especially in politics, in trade unionism, etc., etc. But along the way, there is one lesson that I learned, that it doesn't matter what the advantages you are born with or not born with. It matters if you respect yourself, if you're kind to yourself, and you extend that to others who come and go in your life. Nothing is permanent, and nobody has a permanent presence in your lives, except perhaps the Almighty. So, everybody, you cross a certain age, 58, you retire. That was about 10 years ago. I think now the retirement age is 60 or 65. This whole world, the whole word retire is not really very complimentary. I have no intentions of retiring so soon. I still am very happy to live on my own, manage on my affairs, and do it fairly well, I think. Old people are not here, and we are called old just because, it's a term that's not very kind. There are many like me, I think, in the audience today. And it's only when you grow beyond, it's not just the age, it's the experience of having lived beyond a certain number of years, when people start treating you like, maybe you don't know everything, maybe you're not very good at technology. I agree, my granddaughter probably can do more things on my phone than I can. But that's fine, because I know a lot more about certain things than she does. So, and today, most seniors are much more comfortable with themselves and less apologetic about the fact that, yes, we still want to, enjoy the good things in life. We still think that we can do it, than perhaps 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. That's why the first thing I said to Mahima when she said, "Auntie, will you do this?" I said, "Look, I'm not retired. Don't sort of announce that I'm retired just because I'm over 65. My granddaughter sometimes tells me when she comes over to spend some time with me, you know how children, she's about 11 now, she's very, very, very busy. I have to ask her for appointments almost and say, okay, when am I going to see you? Where are you? And she says, no, you ask mama. And then when you ask the mama, who's my daughter, she says, Ma, I don't know what she's up to. You talk to her. So, I mean, this is how life is today. And one day we were chatting about something that, I mean, I quite frankly don't remember the details of it. And she sounded very surprised when she said to me, but Pati, how do you know so much? So I started laughing. I said, well, I've seen so much. Yeah, you know, that's right. You know more than Mama does. Of course, I was very flattered, I have to admit. But she hit on a very valid point, that with experience, with age, which is actually lived experience, there are things that people of my generation can actually share with others. And many of us do, most of us do. Almost nobody will not want to share. And that is kindness. That is education. Education by the rote is fine. But what you really learn when you've lived through experiences in life possibly holds much more worth than just ABCD or knowing 5 or 6 or 10 languages. Now, when I spoke to her also, I said that, you know, old age in India, we are we're very emotional, which is a good thing, but we're not as practical. In, I think, about 2019, people over the age of 60 were only about 16% of India's population. And look at India's numbers, 1.41 or 2 billion and growing every second. By 2040, we will be 28.8% of this country's population. The numbers are mind-boggling. And of this, and I don't mean everybody is going to be over 75 and 85 and etc. I have colleagues who are, one of them a very respected lady who just died a couple of months ago, Mohini Giri, who was also a head of the NCW. She was a spry old 95-something plus. Whenever I went to visit her in Delhi, I used to be absolutely amazed by her energy, by her enthusiasm, and her zest for life. So when you're talking about the breakup of Indian families, etc., we need to understand that, and in the end, I suppose, with all due respect to the gentleman, the speaker who was there before me, good or bad, this world runs on money. Money seems to be the driving force of too many things. I'm not saying I agree, but it's a fact that most of us have to admit, or I hope everybody admits. There is a thriving economy ahead of us, whether it's housing or medical care. These are the things that come immediately to mind. Recently, I met, again, a very respected colleague who was talking to me about the fact that since he's an NRI, his mother lives in Chennai alone, and we were just talking, another friend of mine, Soumya, is my very good friend Soumya Swaminathan, MS Swaminathan's daughter, we were in school together. He had just passed away, and I was talking to him about how we were talking about a young boy who was there when her father was getting sicker, who was not really a nurse, but who really became the mainstay of Dr. Swaminathan's life, because this boy was trained to help him to, not just through his declining health, but would sit with him and play card games and Scrabble and stuff like that. And she was saying that we need more carers in this world. We don't have them. And they don't all have to be PhDs like doctors and stuff like that. They are, I think, what in India is called the medical assistant, not the nurses specifically. And she was saying that there is a huge economy for it because you need caring, compassionate people. And there is kindness. When you understand that the really elder people who may have been geniuses in their life, we all know what MS Swaminathan achieved, etc. But when he was old, and I have seen him from the age of, I think, 11 or 12, it was, of course, very sad to see him decline. But once over about 7-8 years ago, when he was still speaking normally, he told me, don't feel sorry for me. I've had a most wonderful life, and I have memories that none of you would have made. You don't even know about. So I am very, very happy. Don't feel sad. Just as life begins, life has to end. So please rejoice in people of my age. And he used the word in, not with, not at, for. And it got me thinking that there is a whole generation of us who don't want to be pitied, who don't want to be felt sorry for. Our dignity is probably the most important for any human being. It's not just us, anybody. A child of 2 or 3 will tell you when she's being stubborn or he is being stubborn and saying, no, I want to do this. And I saw a young mother coming in with her children. It's our dignity, any human being. Dignity is probably the most important for anybody. Rich, poor, young, old, white, green, yellow, doesn't make a difference. And if you understand that and respect that dignity, that is kindness to me. As I was saying, coming back to the fact that money seems to be the thing that this whole world revolves around, when you are going to be dealing with seniors in your own life, also think of it from a very practical point of view. You know, we invest in education, we invest in health, we invest in retirement, but what do you mean by retirement? I have, especially in Chennai, I don't think just Chennai, all over India, these retirement communities are, you know, blossoming, blooming, coming up all over the place. And I have a couple of friends who were in that initial Ashiana thing in Dehradun. He's from Bombay. He has a lot of money. His wife died, unfortunately, in an accident. He's very happy. He says, I come and go, he and his 3 dogs, as you know, they announce, I'm an animal lover. So any dog I see, I'd like to make friends with it. Sometimes I get snarled at and snapped at, but never mind. So we started talking about the fact that he says, no, but I still like my independence. I love my children very, very much. I like to be with my friends, but I respect my independence. So don't keep calling me and saying, are you okay? Of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be? Just because I'm over 60 or 65, it doesn't mean I'm not okay. Yes, I fall sick sometimes, don't you? And he was telling me how he was talking to his daughter-in-law, and she said, no, but you know, you're right. When I had measles, it was a horrible time, and I was only about 17, and I was cooped up. In those days, I think you were isolated when you had measles and stuff like that, and it was a miserable time, so I felt so useless. So this is the word he said. He said, nobody is useless. Nobody at all. Most of us are there, if we are lucky enough to be living still in a joint family, and I use that word lucky very consciously. I mean, you know, there is so much that we contribute. There is so much that we would like to contribute more, but you know, people of my generation, we are hesitant about being as open, frank, rude, demanding, there are many words, with our children or the next generations. As my mother, I mean, much, much more careful than my parents were. My mother, when I was 32 or 33 and I was, you know, going out for work, she'd say, where are you going? When are you coming back? I never thought it was wrong. I just said, okay, Ma, I'll be back, I'll call you. We had no mobile phones. Okay, you better call me, and if you're going to have lunch, let me know. If you're coming home for dinner, let me know. I don't dare say this to my granddaughter when she comes over. I just say, Lasya, I mean, you know, shall I make dinner for you? I'll come and see party, is the answer I get. That's fine. We all adapt. But, and I say this again, that when you look at somebody, don't just look at their age. Yeah, age does bring its limitations, but then so are very young people limited. A child born, I mean, my granddaughter may be 11 years old, and it's not that I hesitate with her because I'm afraid of her, but because I love her. And I understand that she comes from a different type of understanding. Her way of looking at things is not mine. So again, that practicality of kindness should not be forgotten. Sometimes we live in a world where we presume everything is perfect. Nothing is perfect. The truth is, maybe it sounds cynical, but I think it's a realistic view. Again, I'm referring to the young gentleman who is there before me. Like he says, something starts, something begins. That should be complete in its whole. But we have a tendency to, all human beings, I guess, have a tendency to keep saying, did we do that right? Was this wrong? Did I say this wrong? Look, what's done is done. You can't undo it. And you really don't know what's coming up the next second in your life. I come from a family where two very, very beloved members of my family died in air crashes, two different generations. My father, when I was 15 and a half, was gone in, one moment he was there, one moment he was not. My elder sister's son, about 10 years ago, disappeared with that MH370. And they were both at the peak of their careers. Both. Just there one moment, gone the next. And it's something that's horrible to come to terms with. But you come to terms with it. Appa was 56 when he died. My nephew Muktesh was 41. So, life went on. We grew older, we grew wiser. In our family, it's not considered uncommon to want to be the best in your field. I have cousins who have Padma Shris, and the introduction given to me was, I have people who have done much more than me in my life. I'm nothing all that great, especially when you look at my family members. But we still, all of us, have been taught one thing. In our family, there's no question of caste and religion. We're such a khichdi, as they call it. I had a Bengali mother, Saraswat Brahmin grandmother, a grandfather who was a Tamilian Gounder. We have, I think now a Jewish daughter-in-law. The nephew who went in that 370 had an American Chinese wife from Beijing. Oh Lord, it's very, very confusing sometimes when you meet about 20 people from our family together. We are all jabbering in different languages. But the one thing that holds us all together is that we've learned to respect each other. In respect lies kindness, according to me, and it's the most important thing. Whether it's a respect for life, whether it's a respect for somebody else's opinion, whether it's a respect for even somebody disagreeing with me. That's a space that is too often not available to people who are over 60. One thinks that officially if you stop making money, again I'm putting that in brackets, for some reason you don't deserve, for want of a better word, the respect that you got 20 years ago. I was head of the National Commission for Women. I learned how exactly our bureaucracy works, how difficult it is to work with police anywhere in the world, and many things. Towards the end of my term, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and because my brother had died of cancer about 16 years before that, I was put through a very, very regressive treatment protocol. It knocked me out. For about 6 months, 8 months after the treatment was over, I was in a sort of daze. My mind, I don't know where it was. I forgot things. But then one day I met another cancer survivor. And he sat me down and said, come here, sit down. I didn't know him before that. His name was Ashok. Let me just say Ashok, right? He just sat me down and out of nowhere he said, now just, calm down. You'll get back to where you were, don't worry. And if some things are not with you after you come back to what you may feel is normal, it means it didn't matter. Just leave it. You won't realize it, but 5 years down the line, you'll realize why I'm saying this. And today I do. Because I have developed an empathy for people who go through this sort of temporary, for want of a better word, amnesia than I ever had before. And I realize that, when we say that God is there to look after us, and it's really his or her will, depending how we look at them, or him, it's true. That old song, Che Sara Sara, I just saw it on my phone the other day with, I think Doris Day singing it. It's absolutely true. We don't know where life will take us. We don't know from where we come, where we go, but we come and we go. So as we go through life, the best thing, the corollary to what I'm trying to say is that respect everybody else, whether it's a little ant on the floor that you really want to stamp because you're afraid it's going to bite you, or it is a friend, or even somebody who may not be your best friend at all, don't look at just age. And the last point is that remember that down the line, as I was saying, in 2040, we will be something like an enormous number of people in this country will be over the age of 58, 60. And most of us will still be more than capable of contributing in many ways, including monetarily, economically, to the economy. So when people are politicians, planners, bureaucrats, etc., when you are talking about the future, or you're making plans, or you're making whatever, voting in elections, whatever, we need to understand that seniors carry as much weight as what you want to call younger people in many ways. And that deserves respect. I keep coming back to that word because very often I find what hurts me the most, and a lot of people whom I work with, who are my friends, etc., is disrespect. When you tend to assume that, okay, you're 65, fine, or you're 75, you've given your best. Sorry. You've given your best. I know that you want to help us, you want to work with us, but really, do you have the energy? Just like anybody else who's about 25 and says, give me a chance, this is what I say, give all elders a chance. You'll be surprised. As much as you will be by a youngster whom you may be underestimating, don't underestimate us. Age is not the only factor that matters. There is a lot of things that goes into every human being who manages to survive to 60 or 70 or 80. And people are living longer. Let's remember that. Longer, more healthy we are. We are also, we have as much access to social media as you all do. So we also know everything that's going on with social media, good, bad, indifferent. So information is there even at our fingertips. Again, to come back to it, life is like a circle. Everybody who is at 2 years old will end up, or not everybody, but most of us will also end up at 70 or 80 years old. And fine, you want to help me up the stairs sometimes? Yeah, I'll catch your hand and say, sometimes I can do it myself. It's not such a big deal. Sometimes, I've heard a friend of my nephews actually, not my granddaughter, who's much older, a 20-something, 30-something young lady say, but all these old people, they're always farting too much. So I said, well, make sure that they get food that doesn't make them do that one. And I'm sure that there are many who don't, and there are also equally a number your age who can really stink up a place, So she was a bit taken aback. And she said, no, I wasn't talking about you. So I had to tell her that this is not just about me. It's not an individual thing that I'm talking about. It's the collective. And the collective is as important as any other collective. Yesterday I heard our two friends here, gentlemen, talk about grace. Time short, see? Too little time for us elders. Okay, so, and the word grace is also practical. When you think that you need to give somebody a second chance, listen to them. It's grace, yes, it's practical also. Because you never know how good the result of that respect for somebody else is going to be and what goodness it's going to give to everybody around us. So, okay, I've been told to shut up and move on. So thank you all very much for listening to me. I hope I made some sense. And thank you for the organizers, especially the daughter of my friends, who's like a daughter to me too. Thank you, all of you. It was lovely being here today.